evening. I will call the meeting to order at this time. If you will please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I would like to call on Mayor Pro Tem Dunn to lead us in the invocation.
Please, dear Lord, thank you for being with us this evening as we come together to do the work of the town. And thank you for allowing the citizens to come out that could be here and the ones that follow the events on the broadcast so they are active in what's going on. Please be with everyone through this time of illness. Let everyone stay safe and hope that we have a speedy recovery through this process. In your name we pray.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, gentlemen, you have the agenda in front of you. Are there any changes to the agenda? There are a couple of known changes. One is to add item number 1, consideration and request for approval to adopt resolution number 666, condemning the death of George Floyd under presentations. And then under the consent agenda, remove item number 2, special event food truck rodeo. Add career ladder promotion for the water plant, consideration and request for approval to promote a water plant trainee to water plant operator 1. And then move item number 10, bid award and request for approval to enter into an agreement for meter reading services from the consent agenda to business item number 2. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as noted.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on now to our one presentation that was added. This Town of Smithfield Resolution number 660, condemning the death of George Floyd. And if you will bear with me, I'll just read the resolution number 660. Whereas on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was senselessly killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, while in police custody. And whereas the town of Smithfield recognizes the deep anguish this tragedy has caused in our community and the country, particularly among African Americans. And whereas George Floyd's death is the latest example of the racism that exists in our society. And whereas the town of Smithfield supports the right of people to peacefully protest this tragedy and call for needed change. And whereas racial diversity is historically woven into the fabric of the town of Smithfield, yet we know much more can and must be done to make the town of Smithfield a more inclusive community, to ensure it is a place where racism does not exist in any place. And whereas we must reach out, listen, and learn from each other so that we can identify where change can be made and how we can make it. And whereas the Smithfield Police Department has and continues to actively support efforts to resist racism and will work with residents to further improve police policies and practices. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Smithfield, North Carolina. The Town Council condemns the murder of George Floyd. The Town Council supports the right of people to peacefully protest. The Town Council commits itself and the town to deliberate and intentional in its efforts to engage the community in constructive, honest, and substantial dialogue to better understand where racism exists and to adopt policies to abolish it. These actions must be concrete and intended to bring about real change, and we will consistently measure our success or failure to bring it about. The Town Council commits that the Smithfield Police Department will continue its efforts to resist racism, promote policies to hire more African Americans and minority officers, and continue with best practices related to eliminating racial profiling and supporting other initiatives intended to eliminate racial bias and excessive force in policing. The Town Council is committed to a safe and healthy environment where all its citizens, visitors, and employees can thrive. Gentlemen, do I have a motion to accept and adopt this resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 660.
Motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, I will sign this and then pass it around, and if you will also sign as well. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we'll move on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing, this is not a quasi-judicial hearing, and our first public hearing, so that no one needs to be sworn in at this time. The applicant is not here. I think that's my understanding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sickness
in his business, and he didn't want to.
Okay, all right. So our first public hearing is ZA-20-01, Mosquito Squad of Raleigh. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the Town of Smithfield Unified Development Ordinance, Article 6, Table 6.5, Table of Uses and Activities, to allow exterminating services as a use by right in a light industrial zoning district. Stephen, turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you said, the applicant is requesting this change so he can operate his business legally in the light industrial district. Right now, they are not permitted in the light industrial district, but they are permitted in the B2 and B3 districts with a special use permit and as a permitted use in the heavy industrial district. Exterminating services involve the storage and use of chemicals to exterminate pests. The industry is regulated by the state to ensure safety in the storage and use of chemicals.
So Stephen, can I stop you right there before we get too far? I do believe I forgot to actually open the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So do I have a motion to open the public hearing? So be it.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, now carry on, sir. My apologies. Got ahead of myself.
The use can also involve a fleet of small trucks to dispatch throughout the region. Exterminating services are a good fit for heavy industrial because of the storage and chemical and fleet vehicles. The services in the B2 and B3 districts does very little for commerce. It's not necessarily a benefit for local business that you would want in the B2, B3 district, and therefore it is a special use, and properly so, to kind of judge how it'll fit into the area and if it would cause any problems. B2 district's intended for more intensive business, where B3 is more focused on trade, tourism, capital investment, and general welfare. This slide really just talks about the different purposes of the districts. And you can see the light industrial, the purpose of this district is to accommodate commercial warehousing and light industrial uses which will be compatible with the Smithfield area and not cause adverse effects for the area or adjacent uses. I mean, this is very fitting for the exterminating business being proposed. We feel their exterminating services are more compatible with light industrial than in any of the business districts. And the use in the light industrial districts, the use in the light industrial district are unlikely to cause adverse effects for the area or adjacent businesses. And there is no expectation for attracting walk-in or drive-by customers, which you would have in a B2 or B3 district. The requirement for a special use permit, as I said, makes sense in the B2 and B3 because of the nature of those districts, and the potential for chemicals and parking in particular for fleet vehicles. Again, we don't believe there's any need for really control over chemical storage or fleet parking in a light industrial district, and we don't see any negative impacts on the adjacent businesses. So this amendment is simply adding a P by exterminating services under the light industrial column in the table of uses. So with this change, exterminating services will be permitted by right in the light industrial district as they are in the heavy industrial district. I think I've pretty much gone through all this. It's pushing. Sorry, the wrong way. So staff believes the text amendment as proposed is consistent with the comprehensive growth plan and adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff and the planning board recommend approval of the amendment with a declaration that it's consistent with the comp plan and it's reasonable and in the public interest. Are there any questions?
Questions for Steve?
I have a couple. My question is, first thing, so the objective would be that you're adding this to the IO zoning, is that correct? OI?
Light industrial.
Light industrial. What, I know this particular, my concern is, first of all, that this situation is, if all of the situations where you had this particular request were done in the same surrounding buildings with these type of industries around them, I understand that this has no trouble. You see my point? I don't have any trouble with the existing businesses in this particular situation. My question to you is, could there not be other situations where we don't have the same clientele around them, where putting in an area that's carrying, that has a lot of poisonous, because exterminators, they got poison, right? And that area could be dangerous to the people in that community. Just because this particular one is surrounded by these buildings where there's not much traffic, could there be a situation with this zoning change? Because once we make the change, then anybody has the right to do it. You understand what I'm trying to ask?
Yes. Having visited the site and the type of use and knowing the other businesses in town, I don't see the chemical storage as it's not highly flammable or highly toxic. It's used in homes and it's regulated by the state. So I don't believe, obviously it's in higher concentrations when it's in a storage facility, but I don't believe it has any inherent danger on adjacent properties. I think the bigger issue is the fact that it's not really a retail business. If it's in the B2 and B3, it's probably less fitting because it's not retail per se. And heavy industrial, you almost want to say that heavy industrial for those really dirty businesses. This is a pretty clean operation, and most of the other ones in town are pretty clean operations. You wouldn't know there was chemical storage. It's all stored inside. I'm not sure if there are similar businesses that are much different in operations. I've just not seen it. So my answer is I don't believe there's any inherent danger of having this use in the light industrial district.
So then, having said that, then I would ask, why would our UDO not have originally included them?
Yeah.
So why was the decision made by those who created it? There was obviously some concern for not including that type of business in that district zoning area, because if there wasn't, they would have included it, right? So, yeah, I'm just, let me say this, a statement. I'm concerned that we constantly change the UDO constantly. And I understand there's some things that we find along the way, but there's a reason why the money and time was spent on developing the UDO was to constantly say, nah, it doesn't matter. Nah, it doesn't matter. Nah, it doesn't matter. So my point is, do we understand why it was excluded and then why it now should be included? Because that's when I read the statement that says here from the planning department that, let me find it right here, says that the statement declaring the request is consistent with the town of Smithfield's comprehensive growth plan and the request is reasonable and in public interest. If our UDO that was created by our public says it's not acceptable, then the planning board has to have a reason why what was in the past is not acceptable anymore. You see my point? That's what concerns me when we do things like this particularly.
I do understand that, and I've been in and out of that UDO so much in the last 6-8 months looking at amendments, and there are many more similar amendments where I just don't know why you have something that's really a pretty intensive use. It's allowed in the B2, B3, and then light industrial it's not, and then in heavy industrial it's allowed, whether by permitted or by special use. And you'll be seeing other amendments as we get to those in the future here, and we can have this debate. I don't know why. I just have seen it as a pattern where they seem to save the light industrial for what use, I'm not sure. And the B2 and B3 tend to have quite a few industrial type uses. Light industrial seems to have fewer, and then heavy industrial is kind of a catch-all. So I can't answer why it was in the past. We just have to look at it as case by case and decide whether it makes sense or not. UDO is, this table probably has not been updated in 20-some years or more. I don't know who developed it. And I just think there's going to be a need to go through it and evaluate it for each use. And in this case, you had someone that opened up in that district not knowing it was illegal because his landlord didn't inform him or he didn't do his research, but he's done the right thing and he's gone forward and asked for the text amendment, and he has staff support because we believe it's a good fit for the light industrial, a good fit for the heavy industrial, and less so for B2 and B3, and the code reflects that with the special use permit process.
So my last question would be then, again, like I said, I don't have a problem with this particular situation, this particular location. That's not really my concern. I fully understand it. I don't have any concern with putting it there. My concern is, so we changed the UDO, but then do we give does it require a special use permit to do it? Or does just once we put it in place, then any of them can be in there? You see my point?
Right.
If it's a special use request, then that gives us the ability to evaluate each situation by situation by situation, because they would have to request a special use permit to do it. So then my question is, the UDO, you're putting in the UDO to allow a special use permit or to change the UDO?
In this case, the recommendation was to, originally I thought make it a special use, but I just can't see where in the light industrial district you would put meaningful conditions on such a use to make it more conforming, because parking is not really an issue in the light industrial district. Outdoor storage is allowed. I mean, all those things that you would add conditions to wouldn't really be that meaningful in the light industrial district as it would in the B2 and B3 district, where there you have a lot of other considerations for proximity of other uses. So therefore, we recommend it be a permitted use, because why make people go through a process that isn't going to create meaningful difference in the outcome? Because if a special use comes forward, you can't necessarily deny it, but you can put reasonable conditions on it to bring it up to code and to mitigate any issues. But again, I just don't see what issues that use is going to create in a light industrial district that a conditional use process would improve upon. And I guess if the council feels differently, you could recommend that P be an S in the table and make it a special use. But that isn't something that we've recommended or, and we advise the client to make it a permitted use because just talking about it.
Is that, several years ago, we did some type of adjustment to the manufacturing facilities out there near the airport? Down that road from, you know what I'm talking about?
Studio TK?
No, a little further down. I mean, hold on. Let me get it right. No, right at the airport where the concrete place has been built back there in the back.
Yeah, Thomas Concrete.
Right, but before there are some manufacturing facilities.
Yeah, the
We had to do some type of rezoning over there, did we not, because of the type of, they wanted to add some manufacturing or something?
I don't recall, but Thomas Concrete was turned to heavy industrial from light industrial.
But the manufacturing facilities that's beside it going in, what are they rated? What are they zoned?
I believe it's light industrial, but I cannot.
See, there, so there's my question. That's in light industrial. So now you say somebody can go right in there and put in a exterminator place that has heavy chemicals. Right beside a manufacturing facility that does have traffic because of people that work at the facility. And so it depends on how many people live and how many people work in that facility. And now you have a potential dangerous environmental impact because you have that. I'm just saying, I'm thinking about the different scenarios, and so I think I prefer, and that's all I'm gonna say, and then we'll move on. But I prefer it be a special use permit where we have an opportunity to evaluate it because, you know, let's face it, today there's major lawsuits out there over Roundup. So who knows what type of chemicals, not on their own purpose, or even if we don't even know, that could be dangerous in long-term exposure that we don't know today. So I'm concerned if we have many people in a population going through an area, if there's a potential, I want us to have an opportunity to evaluate it before we say yes or no. So my opinion would be that we don't allow this to be an acceptable use, but to be a special permit use that give us an opportunity to ensure that our citizens are safe if that happens. That's all I'm saying.
Any other question? But Stephen, just for clarification, in a heavy industrial zoning district, exterminating service is already a permitted use.
Correct.
So it wouldn't come before us in a heavy industrial setting.
Well,
So, you know,
It wouldn't come before you in heavy industrial, it just.
that's right, it wouldn't come before us.
Staff approved.
Right, it's permitted use, right? So,
Well, really, by definition, the purpose of this district, the light industrial district, is to accommodate commercial warehouse. That's part of it. Would you consider this commercial warehouse? And it also says in light industrial uses, which will be compatible with the Smithfield area and not cause adverse effects for the area or adjacent uses. I don't have a problem with it, the way it, I mean, it's not, no, it doesn't say exterminating services, but I think it's red, and you can use that for warehouse. That's the way I read it, maybe I'm wrong. So I don't know if you need to really bring it before the council, to be honest with you. I mean, based on the definition, 'cause that's what he's using it for, right?
Well, it's a service business that involves a chemical,
so it'd be more than a warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
it's small storage, it's not warehousing, it's really
It's just, okay,
incidental.
okay.
incidental
Then that, yeah, that,
I do have one question about the storage of the chemicals. Most of the chemicals, I believe, have to be locked in a designated area by state or federal regulations, don't they?
It's heavily regulated.
Except for what's already mixed on the trucks that may be in the yard, but the pure chemicals are locked inside the building.
he's not using that for, he's not parking trucks there.
I think he has 3 trucks.
Okay, he's parking, okay.
They're in the parking lot. He has no outside presence other than the trucks parked in the parking stalls.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions or would like to speak on this matter? There are no further questions for Stephen. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, close the public hearing.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion, we approve hearing ZA 2001.
Second.
And does your motion, Mr. Stevens, also include that it's consistent with the comprehensive growth plan? And it's reasonable in its public interest based on the staff's findings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries with Councilman Barber and the sole no vote. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, at this time we'll move on to our next public hearing, which is RZ-20-03 Kitty College of Canterbury. The applicant is requesting to rezone one tract of land totaling approximately 0.454 acres from an R8 to an O&I zoning district. The property considered for rezoning is located on the west side of Canterbury Road, approximately 190 feet south of its intersection with Berkshire Road, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 15004023A. This time I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Stephen?
Thank you. The applicants are Phil and Barbara Wilkins. The mayor covered this first slide quite well. The property was originally built as a child care center in the R8 zoning district when the development was constructed. Roughly a 3,500 square foot building. It's a commercial type building with multiple rooms and a bathroom, truly designed as the daycare. The front and side of the building, there are plus or minus 5 parking stalls with 2 driveways off of Canterbury Road. The playground is in the back of the building, and the building is well screened from the adjacent residential townhomes by trees along the property line. The rezoning of the property to the OI district will serve to more accurately reflect the existing land uses on the site. The property is now and has always been used as a daycare since it was developed. Having a conforming site with respect to zoning and land use will make the property more marketable for the applicant in the future. Conformance with the zoning will allow for an easier permitting process if the property is damaged by fire or other natural disasters. Rezoning of the property to O&I will allow all land uses permitted in the O&I zoning district to be considered for future approvals. And I've given you here a list of what is allowed in O&I district with special use permits or permitted by right. So basically, permitted by right is mostly office uses, some clinics, health club, barber beauty shop, drugstore, restaurants, artist studio, that sort of thing. And there's some other uses here by special use where the council would be able to put reasonable conditions on the permit. As I stated, it's all residential all around, but the land use across the street is a church. It's got an R10 zoning, but it's actually an O&I institutional use directly across the street. So there already is an institutional type presence here. And if the church were to ask for an O&I zoning, there would be no reason to oppose it. It's the land use that's already there. This is a map of the location. You can see the church across the street. It's the Latter-day Saints Church. On the corner of Berkshire and Canterbury, on the north corner, there's also, I believe, a group home or something similar. I'm not exactly sure the nature of the business. But that's also an institutional type use allowed in a residential district. With the approval, the town council has to adopt a consistency statement. We do believe it's consistent with the comprehensive growth management plan. The map guides these properties for medium-density residential land use. The R8 zoning district is considered medium. All right, something goofed up here on this slide. Disregard this slide. I don't know what I have in my all right. No, this somehow didn't get updated. My apologies. But I do believe this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The institutional uses across the street that was permitted. The development was originally developed this way, conceived of with these uses being together. So we believe it's consistent and is obviously compatible with the surrounding land uses. Again, it was planned that way and exists on the ground in that fashion. The planning board looked at this, and staff and the planning board recommend approval of the rezoning, believing it's consistent with applicable plans, policies, and ordinances in the public interest.
Any questions, comments? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak?
The applicants are here?
The applicant is or is not?
Yeah.
The applicant wish to speak on this, you don't have to. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Okay.
I do have a few things.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Give somebody else opportunity first if I say anything. So my question is, first of all, well, I think, did you say page 20 of our book is not correct?
I'm sorry?
Page 20 of our book is not correct, with like we've got compatible with surrounding
The
land
findings
use?
of the consistency statement are incorrect because that is from an older report.
Okay, because I saw some Smithfield field on it, I'm thinking, Smithfield field, I think you got the wrong side of town.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. One of the questions though, it says here that you made a statement about the Church of Latter-day Saints, which is institutional use as a residential zoning district, with a much greater impact on the neighborhood in terms of traffic than this small commercial building would be if zoned to office and industrial institutional district. My question is, first of all, how did you make that determination? That you don't know what it could be? Did you take consideration all of these possibilities of a restaurant, a drugstore, a barber shop, a video arcade club, a contractor's office? Did you take all of those and decide that the Latter-day Saints Church has more traffic impact than that area would? Is that, I mean, that's what you're stating?
I can explain that.
Okay.
The site itself has only 6 parking stalls, so it's very limited as to what could actually go in there, even under an O&I zoning, because you still have to meet some parking requirements, and just the site is not configured that will work for a lot of different uses. If it was a restaurant, it'd be more like a coffee shop with maybe a small cafe, which is more of a neighborhood walkable type of use. You're not going to get a big commercial. I mean, you could put a drugstore there, but it's not a place for a drugstore. Most of those uses would not locate there. It's more likely to be a small architect's office, something quieter, less traffic. The daycare probably has more traffic than most of any of those uses on that list, given the nature of that building and site. The only way you could really increase the capacity and traffic on that site would be to tear it all down and redo it, and that's just not cost effective, and that site's probably too small to do that anyway.
So you're making some assumptions in your statement.
I
So
am making some assumptions.
it's
With
an-
5 parking stalls, maybe 6
Right.
parking stalls, there's only so much you can do on that site.
Right, so it's an opinion of that. My question is too, does any of the neighbors, any of the neighbors at adjacent properties, do they express any concerns about rezoning?
I've had no comments whatsoever. It's been advertised, and I don't believe there's anybody here from the neighborhood, but if so, they can come forward, I imagine.
Okay, I need to know, thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Stephen? entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now I need a,
Make a motion, we approve that ordinance. I can't look, those read something else.
also, that also include,
RZ 2003.
Councilman Stevenson, does that also include that the petition is consistent with the comprehensive growth plan and other applicable adopted town plans, and that is reasonable and in the public interest?
Yes.
Okay. Second. A motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Mayor,
Motion carries. Yes, sir.
if I could, would Ms. Wilkins please stand up in the back? This is Aunt Barbara Wilkins. She ran Canterbury College, Kitty College for how many years, Aunt Barbara? 30 years in the same place, and I think a lot of our kids for 30 years went through her place, and she did a fantastic job with every one of them. And I don't know how she did it with my children, but they came out okay too. But she ran a fantastic place for a long period of time, and I want to thank you personally for all you did for the children of this community for 30 years, Aunt Barbara. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And good luck, honey.
Thank you, sir. Okay, then we'll move on to our next public hearings. Smithfield Independent Living and JCC Engineering Building. Both of these are quasi-judicial hearings. So if the applicants are here, if you will, please, if the applicants are here and anyone wishing to speak on this matter in the audience, for or against, please stand now and be sworn in by the clerk. And that's for both of the next two. So, Smithfield Independent Living and Johnston Community College.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. I believe we have our town attorney is on the phone.
He is.
Bob, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, sir, we are getting ready to start the quasi-judicial hearing. Wanted to make sure that you are listening closely in, sir. Thank you.
I am. Sometimes it's a bit muffled, but I'm doing my best.
Okay. So I will ask that everybody please up here speak into your microphone. And anyone in the audience, if you will, please come forward when you're called upon to this center podium to make any comments. Okay. All right, so we'll move now to SUP-20-05 Smithfield Independent Living. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to construct and operate a multi-unit assisted housing facility with services on a 4.24 acre tract of land located within an O&I zoning district. The properties considered for approval are located on the west side of Kelly Drive, approximately 700 feet north of its intersection with M. Durwood Stevenson Parkway. The properties are further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 14075022D and 14075022C. This time I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Mayor.
Second. A motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Stephen, turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. So this request is being made by Carolina Commercial Contractors. They're the same contractors that built the assisted living facility across the street. They're proposing this facility on a 4.24 acre parcel and 11.06 acre parcel, which will be combined as part of this process. So multi-unit assisted housing with services is a special use in the O&I district, which is the district we're in. This is the proposed facility. Again, it's located directly across Kelly Drive from the assisted living facility. It's got two access points. One is lined up with the new charter school's access road. And the second one just beyond the driveway for the assisted living facility. Really all there's some drainage shown on this, so they're dealing with drainage. They've shown adequate parking. So the total acreage is 15.3. It's in the O&I office institutional district. So the town of Smithfield, water, sewer, and electric. To the north, it's O&I, and there is a sliver of R20A land adjacent to this parcel, but it's on the other side of the wetlands. To the south, it's O&I office. To the west, it's R10. It's vacant and agricultural. And to the east, it's residential and institutional. Again, the assisted living facility located there. This shows the surrounding uses. You can see the R10 is back behind, which is really a wetland. So there's a good distance there. And the land to the north is R20A and O&I. And I believe some of that R20A you may see change in the future as development comes. Both properties contain open buildable land along the frontage with Kelly Drive, and then woodlands and wetlands towards the rear, as shown in the last drawing. There is a Piedmont natural gas easement crossing the northern portion of this property outside of the construction area. This area has really become a hub of medical offices with the assisted living facility. There's a dental clinic and a couple other facilities nearby. When the assisted living facility was constructed, the developer had also intentions of building this nearby, so it's been discussed for quite some time and something that they were generally counting on. The Smithfield Living Facility complements the existing uses, as I said. Its residents will be able to utilize the support services nearby and even the Shrek facility across Booker Dairy Road, or Durwood-Stevenson Parkway now. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's two access points shown in red here. The one lining up with the new charter school. There's 93 parking spaces, 4 of them handicapped. For the 83 units, there are 98 bedrooms. 1 parking stall per unit is the standard. Many of the residents will be using JCATs to get around town, which is why the parking requirements are so low. It's the type of use and the types of residents that will live here. So far, the site plan hasn't been developed enough to address landscaping, lighting, stormwater, and other UDO requirements. These will be addressed during the site plan approval process. Staff believes this is we're in support of the special use permit, and I've listed findings of fact as required. I can go through these one by one, or I can skip to the next couple slides. Okay, we can come back to them if you need to. The planning department recommends approval of SUP 2005 based on the findings of fact with the following conditions. That the applicant will submit plans for loading, landscaping, lighting, stormwater in strict accordance with the UDO requirements, and that the 2 properties be combined into a single lot. There are no other conditions we're asking for. With that, are there any questions?
Questions for Stephen at this time?
I have one question. The entrance and exit to the, those of us that have children in Moose Charter, we know the flow of traffic through that area. And I know that's an intersection, they've got the turn to go to Moose Charter is right across the road from the entrance to this new location. I mean, if you go through there, you know, in the morning or afternoon, it's very difficult. So now you're adding another entrance here. Is there some plans for I don't think it needs a stoplight, but I've always said that I think that they need to have a four-way stop signs to be sure, because I know it's dangerous. People pull out, coming out of this charter school, they turn out without even looking, coming down the road. Now you're adding another element of complexity to that same intersection. So I'm just concerned, what is the planning board's view of that, I mean, the planning department's view of that intersection? Is there something that needs to be done, you know, to ensure, because I know there's gonna be a lot of heavy traffic, but still, it could be difficult, and it could be difficult for people getting in and out of that driveway during certain times of the morning or afternoon, because it's just, and you can't back traffic up on the Durham Stevens Parkway. So,
Well, driveways are a necessity for the use, and having it lined up directly across the new charter school is the best location, so that there are, you know, good sight lines. Four-way stops are safer than three-way, actually, because people don't think they have to stop because there's no cross traffic. So I think that's the best location for the driveway, and there is a secondary driveway, so if you want to go the other direction or avoid that intersection. In terms of the overall traffic load on that road, that's probably more of an issue for us, the engineer and the town, to look at. Right now, I don't think there are plans for a stop sign. I do know that lighting is a big priority for that street, and we're looking at lighting right now, which will help alleviate some of the problems out there.
but my understanding, that road is like Smithfield, that road, have we adopted that road yet?
We have not.
Okay, well, eventually it will belong to us, is that correct? We'll have responsibilities for it, is that correct?
The majority of it.
That particular intersection, though, that's what I'm talking about. So therefore, if we have, if it gets built and we have an issue, then we can address it ourselves, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Steve? Okay. I'll ask the applicant if they will please come forward. How are you doing, sir? If you will, please both state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Corey Mavis. I'm with Carolina Commercial Contractors, 1600 Colin Road in Sanford, North Carolina.
I'm Ken Waldrop with ALG Senior.
Okay. All right, so I had one question to ask you gentlemen. You heard the testimony that was presented by the planning director. Do you agree with the testimony that he provided?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any additional information you'd like to share?
We're excited about the project and hope it'll be a good improvement or addition to Smithfield.
Okay. All right. Great. All right, thank you, gentlemen. If you will, maybe just stand right here for just a minute. If there's anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this matter. Okay. Not seeing any. Any questions for the developers from the council? Okay. Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion we close the hearing.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Okay. Gentlemen, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. The eight findings of fact are found on page 34, I believe. 34 and 35 of your agenda package. We can go through each one of those, or we can entertain a motion to approve or deny all of them in one motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the finding of facts 1 through 8, and we approve the motion with the two conditions that are set forth in the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Madam Clerk, just a point of order. Do you need two motions, or can it be done in one?
Yes, sir, I need to know.
Okay, so Councilman Barber, I need one motion to approve the findings of facts.
I'll make a motion we approve the 8 findings of facts.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the 8 findings of fact. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Now, sir, we need to record that decision, so now we can make a motion to approve with the two suggestions.
We approve the permit application SUP 20-05 with the following conditions. That the applicant submit plans for loading, landscaping, lighting, stormwater management in strict accordance with UDI requirements, and two, that the two properties be recombined into one lot.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilman Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. We're looking forward to some future development in that area and a much-needed project in our community. So, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to SUP-20-06 JCC Engineering Building. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to construct and operate a 46,365 square foot educational facility on the Johnston Community College campus. The property considered for approval is located on the southeast side of College Road, approximately 400 feet south of its intersection with East Market Street, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 15K 10199F. This time, need a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Turn it over to Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So the applicant is the Timmons Group, and the JCC campus is in the Office and Institutional Zoning District. Community colleges are a special use in our table of uses, so that's why we're here tonight. This proposed building is to be located on the kind of northeast end of that large parking lot at JCC. Kind of where the trees are, they're gonna be taking out some of those trees and putting it at the end of that parking lot. They will be displacing some of the parking. And as you can see here, they are proposing an alternate parking lot, but they actually don't want to build it with this phase of development, kind of leave it as an option into the future. And based on, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I'm just getting ahead of myself here. I don't think there's any information here that I haven't stated. Everybody knows what the community college is, adjacent land uses. The key thing is there's retail just to the, I guess, to the east, the whole I-95 gateway there with Golden Corral and coffee shops and other restaurants. And you can see here the community college. You can see the location where the building will be located, where the trees are. As you can see behind the area in red, you get the new hotel going in, and Golden Corral, Sheetz, Burger King, and then we have the new College Plaza across the street between Pine and Dogwood. So it's a proposed 46,000+ square foot building, 2 stories. They're going to be losing 35 parking stalls in that large parking lot as they build this, and they will be removing some mature pine trees. There is a pedestrian access from the parking lot to the other campus buildings, so this will be well tied into their campus. There is no pedestrian access along College Road or along East Market Street, and no pedestrian access to those adjacent commercial properties. Johnston Community College is an overall campus, with a very large parking lot, kind of central to the design. We do believe this building complements the campus, and then we do believe that the shared use of that parking lot kind of balances out. Some of the uses are heavier for one building at one time and less so at other times. Occasionally, the parking lot fills up, but most often, there's sort of a mix of vehicles coming and going. So, we looked at the parking. They're kind of right at the requirements when you look at all the uses. And the theater building, for instance, is not used very much during regular campus hours, so some of those buildings are not utilized at peak hours. So this just shows the changes in that parking lot before and after. The actual access location to College Road remains the same, and they are long-term planning to punch a connection over to Jaguar Path, and then there's going to be an access to their kind of loading docks, trash pickup behind the building from Jaguar Path. Section 2.22 of the UDO requires all new O&I district construction to provide a 5-foot sidewalk along the street right-of-way. The engineering building is one new structure on a very large campus. There are no sidewalks along College Road or Market Street at this time. Although it may not be justified to require a 5-foot sidewalk along all the road frontages, some additional pedestrian connectivity should be considered to benefit the student body and the adjacent commercial. At first, when I met with them, that was something I insisted upon, and then we started talking about what was out there, and I somewhat backed off, thinking it might be kind of a stretch to ask, considering where this building was and in the overall campus scenario. Then we completed a draft plan for the College Pond Park, which I believe the council has seen that picture. Something that we hope to do in the future, kind of an extension of trails around that College Pond. That's something that we've been working on as staff. An idea would be kind of extending some trails from Smith Collins Park over to that pond to provide another amenity. And the comp plan also showed a connection through Smith Collins Park from the Spring Branch with the intent to get it all the way to Market Street. So this is really a key missing link of bringing that pedestrian connectivity from Market Street and then getting it towards College Pond to Smith Collins Park and eventually across Brightleaf, connecting it to the Spring Branch corridor. So, when it came to the special use permit, we started looking again and analyzing it, and it became very apparent that that sidewalk requirement is not something that could be waived. It's really essential to the long-range planning of the community. And so that's why, we put it in here as a condition of approval, which I do know that the applicants are unhappy about. So that'll be a point of discussion tonight. And here is the comprehensive plan exhibit showing the trails getting you over to Smith Collins Park, and then we have a draft College Pond Trail project concept plan, which you can see it gets us really close to that large parking lot. This is the alternative parking. Again, there's a letter that I received from the applicants that states that, should it be determined in the future that additional parking is needed, they will build the parking at that time. So it's a commitment from them, and it's in writing. It's in the file, and also it will be in these minutes, so that'll be well recorded. Hopefully that will address the future needs of the parking should it become essential. They are doing something really unique with stormwater management. It's kind of a key feature into the entrance of their building. It would be a very decorative dry pond with decorative plantings, some interesting use of walls. It would provide some visual interest. And landscape and lighting is being provided in accordance with the UDO. Again, as typical, I've got draft findings of fact. I'm not going to go through them, but they're here for reference if we want to talk about them. The Planning Department is recommending approval of SUP 2006 based on the findings of fact with the following conditions: that the alternative one parking be installed if it is determined that additional parking is needed by the Smithfield Planning Director. And also, number 2, that a public sidewalk be provided from the new building to East Market Street or adjacent to the College Road right-of-way. And with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for
Planning director this time.
The question about the sidewalks, so the intent would be that they would have to put sidewalks, you're recommending the sidewalks go from the side of the building all the way to East Market Street?
Yeah, from the sidewalk of the new building to the College Road right-of-way out to Market Street.
And then, do we currently have sidewalks on Market Street at that point?
We have right in front of the Golden
There's a
Corral.
small segment
In front of the corral.
on the College Plaza. We had them build a segment there. There's a gap where Kobe is, and there's a gap where the gas station and Waffle House. So there's a section there that doesn't have it. And Golden Corral has sidewalks, so that's the closest public sidewalk to this site. So in all, if you were to go from this first driveway that they're proposing to Market Street, it's somewhere close to 600 feet. And it's another 400 feet from College Road down to the Golden Corral sidewalk. So all in all, if you wanted to make a connection to a public sidewalk, you're at about 1,000 feet. But we're asking that they get it at least to Market Street. We're hoping that a future Market Street project will construct trails in that area.
So, my question, I guess, is, I understand the concern that they have, because my concern is, I understand why we want it. Yeah, I mean, I understand you explain well why we would want them to do that. But the question for them would be their obligation, based upon our requirements. If we say that the building is building beside the road, right? I mean, if you build a house well off the road, there's no requirement to have a sidewalk. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
How far, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna-
It's just like,
how far do you have to go? How far back would you have to go before you didn't have to build a sidewalk?
well, a sidewalk is required with any new construction in an O&I district. So it's actually a code requirement.
Right, I
We
understand.
could require it on both frontages, technically in the code. It just seems very unreasonable, given the size of this campus, most of it developed in the past without sidewalks. It's a big ask to put in, sidewalks on their whole frontage. So we're saying, this is the part of campus you're impacting. Let's put in sidewalks in proportion to what you're impacting.
Is there a possibility of development on that other section? I mean, I'm assuming you would know their long-term plans at JCC. Would they not eventually plan to develop that road frontage there in front, that's aligned to East Market Street?
I can't answer that. I don't know if there's any necessary plans for that, per se. I mean, I do think if we get it out to Market Street, I mean, I do think there's a benefit to the community college to have access, to the adjacent commercial. I'm sure it all comes down to budgets and dollars. I do think they're probably going to, at some point, develop the north side of College Road, and there could be an opportunity for more sidewalks in that area. They've talked about realigning their entrance further away from I-95. And so with that project, there could be some additional sidewalks that the town could feasibly include. So I can't answer that fully, but the intent here was to try to get us further down that road and get us closer to at least making that comprehensive planning concept come to fruition by connecting Market Street to Smith Collins Park and then beyond.
I just know every dollar that we take away from JCC to build a sidewalk is money that can't be spent on the students in our community. I mean, I know that. So we have to take that into consideration when we look at what we're trying to do.
And that's why I was
So
thinking,
I'm just, saying, I mean, I understand they're wanting to balk about adding roads, sidewalks that they don't think that they need to put in at this point. I mean, I can understand that, just saying. So I just didn't know what I don't see, I guess. So you're saying if they build a little small hut in the middle of that land, we can require them to put sidewalks on their entire property by UDO? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't hear that.
If they only built a small 50-foot shed, by code, we could require them to put sidewalks over their entire property. That's what I'm saying.
Technically, yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So it's really up to us on what we want to require them to do. But we also have the right not to have to do that. We have the right to not require them to do all of it if we choose to. Is that correct? Or are we in violation of the UDO if we don't require them to go all the way. That's, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know with subdivisions, it's a little more at council's discretion. The UDO was black and white saying they're required, but, you know, the question is, they're not developing the entire campus. They're developing a piece of it. And so it's kind of a unique situation where I feel like you need to be proportional. And I think we are doing that.
If they go out to Market Street with a sidewalk, how far will you have to go to tie into Golden Corral? And whose responsibility would that be? Would that go back on us?
Well, it could be back on us if DOT has a project, and we do have it on a plan now that they're required. They will build it if the DOT redoes a street project. You know, a rebuild of adding lanes to East Market Street, they would build it without city participation.
I'd hate to have it built and then it just stops and not go anywhere, you know what I'm saying?
But it's about 400 feet missing then.
Do we have an estimate how much that would cost to sidewalk?
It's roughly, I looked it up, somewhere around $6 to $9 a foot. So, somewhere in that range. The applicant may actually know the dollars better than I do, as they're in the construction industry.
Any other questions? So Stephen, there are existing sidewalks on College Road up to this?
There are no sidewalks in College Road.
So there's none on College Road either?
So even if they build this, there's still going to be a gap between the future College Pond trails, you know, if we build those, to this sidewalk. This will at least connect the whole campus out to Market Street.
Yeah.
So all we'd have to do is find a way to get to the campus sidewalks, or build a sidewalk in front of that large parking lot. That would get us to Market Street.
So theoretically, some of those people leaving college wouldn't have to get in the car and go to Zaxby's or something, they could walk, right?
That's the intent.
That's the intent, yeah, get some traffic, that would be great. And just and this may be a question for the applicant, but if you know, Stephen, looking at the plot that you have on page 60 that shows the building, so are they going to clear the rest of these trees all the way to College Road?
No, they're only taking, they're going to clear it mostly till, was it Jaguar Path? That's not it. Nor is that. Let's see. Here we go. This,
How many foot of buffer would be from the trees to Market Street from the building?
you can see the additional trees on the east side of Jaguar Path here. Those are all going to stay.
So there'd be some buffer between there and Market?
Yes. And I don't believe they're going to put a building there. It's really, I think, kind of critical to their image when you come in from Market Street. But you never know.
Any other questions for Stephen at this time? At this time, I'll ask the applicant if they will come forward, please. Good evening. If you both will state your names and addresses for the record, please.
My name is Garrett Frank. I'm with the Timmons Group. My address is 514 North Fur Avenue, Siler City, North Carolina.
My name is Michael Alderman. I'm also with the Timmons Group. I live at 218 Vernon Haywood Circle, Raleigh.
You both are representing Johnston Community College?
Yeah, so this was kind of I guess we knew we were on the docket, but a little bit of a short notice on some of the conditions given with this SUP. And just to give some clarification, the fact of the parking lot, it's something we want to provide. It's just something that budget might not give us the opportunity to provide. So it's something in the plan. It's not necessarily just in the future. It's gonna, if there's money left in the budget, it will happen. And it's of top priority of Johnston Community College. And you know, and our second condition was kind of one that I spoke with Dr. Johnson about this morning. And I know we had heard it in the past, but a bit of surprise that it was now going to be required. And we definitely kicked around the idea. He definitely saw the benefit long-term for the town. Just some of the moving parts within JCC as far as, as you mentioned earlier, funding for, students, some of those priorities begin to become reprioritized when additional funding gets added to this project. As there's not a lot of site work for this project, as most of it's for the building. They're working towards keeping the college competitive and trying to make dollars go as far as they can. But he definitely wants to be a partner with the town and not and not go against the benefits and the requirements of the UDO. But we did also express some other concerns, and Michael spoke with Stephen about them, and there was some back and forth, but potentially with this dead-end sidewalk, leading people to a intersection that is not designed to handle pedestrian crossings. There's no ped signals, there's no crosswalks, and Stephen mentioned the DOT hasn't had a problem with this in the past on some projects, but this one kind of presents a larger challenge since there's a destination across the street as far as the new college retail building. So now it gives, the opportunity, if that wasn't there, people wouldn't necessarily want to come from the college and walk and cross the street. And as we all know, that intersection gets pretty crazy at peak hour traffic and lunchtime. So there's a bit of a concern there. And, if that's not something that takes grit, he does have concern. And I think ultimately he would need to decide if that's something the college wants to move forward to, because he feels like there's somewhat of a safety concern with that. But there's also long-term plans, and if the previous 2018 Johnston County bond wouldn't have been approved, the entry project and Jaguar Drive rehab both would have been a project that would have taken place versus this engineering building, both having much smaller scopes. So it is something of the priority of the college to make entrance improvements and also to rehab Jaguar Drive, which has a bunch of failing asphalt pavement up and down it. Also potentially to add dedicated left turn lane, so that congested intersection kind of gets a little bit better. And with those improvements would come, Dr. Johnson said it certainly would come with those pedestrian connections. But if it's something that we're going to require today, that it just comes out of the dollars and cents of the total projects, and the neat stormwater planting requirements that we're looking at, doing these innovative techniques. Some of that stuff gets lost with with making those tough decisions. So it's kind of it's going to be a complete reprioritization of some of the site elements, and money's not going to go as far. That's pretty much kind of the arguments I have. I think it's more of concerns. They really want to improve the pedestrian connection and work with the town. They just don't want to waste these dollars and come back with an engineering project that would basically nullify the tax dollars spent putting in some of these sidewalks, and then coming back and realigning the entrance, or realigning or repaving and widening the college road at Market Street. And you could say, well, what's the timeline on that? And Dr. Johnson's not certain, but it was a top priority as of 2018, before we weren't certain that the bond was going to get passed. But what's the timeline on DOT coming through on Market Street and making that full connection and making a safe pedestrian connection there? And there's kind of a lot of working parts, and I think the town and JCC definitely want to work together. It's just a concern of proper planning and not, wasting or using the tax dollars that we want to implement to improve that area. It just, it's kind of not the most opportune time, and JCC's, of course, we don't know what the budgets are gonna be like for our public school systems and towns and all that, so this could be, it could be some slim pickings for, just normal maintenance projects for the campus, just to keep allocating funds to education. So I just think some of those concerns I have and Dr. Johnson have, we just want to share with y'all. We don't want to come off that we're trying to get away from providing it. We definitely want to provide it. Just we want to do it smartly and to align with everyone's plan.
All right. Just one question for you. You heard the testimony that was presented by the planning director. Do you agree with what he presented as far as the project goes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from anyone in the audience who's been sworn in to speak for or against this project? Any questions for these gentlemen? Any additional questions for Stephen at this time? Not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Hey, gentlemen, same as the previous case that we were just reviewed, we can go over the findings of fact individually on page 47. Whatever page, the findings of fact. 47 is 47, okay. We can go through those. 49, I'm sorry. We can go through those individually, or can entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question related. I just want to make sure that as we make sure that we don't do anything that would not be appropriate, I just want to make sure that there's not an issue. I am a graduate of Johnson Community College. That's my first degree. So I want to make sure it's not an issue with me voting on it one way or the other. That's all I want to verify. You understand?
No, sir, not unless you own it.
Okay, well, good enough then.
You're paid by them. All right.
And then I would make a motion that we approve the 8 finding of facts that are the classification quasi determine that these 8 findings here. Is that how I have to do that first, right?
Correct.
I'll make a recommendation that we approve those.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the findings of facts. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept we approve the special use application, and with the following condition of 1, that the alternate parking be installed if it's determined that additional parking is needed by the Smithfield Planning Director, and not number 2.
Okay. Have a motion to approve with condition number 1 as proposed by the planning department, and omitting number 2 for the sidewalk. So I have a second. Second on the motion, Councilman Barber. If not, Mr. Barber, your motion fails due to a second. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommended recommendations 1 and 2 based on stated in our agenda, that the alternate number 1 parking will be installed. It is determined that additional parking is needed by the Smithfield Planning Director, and that a public sidewalk be provided from the B building to East Market Street in or adjacent to the College Road right-of-way.
Okay, have a motion to approve with the two stated conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No, simply because of the second one.
Motion carries. Approval with the two recommended suggestions from the planning department. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, at this time, we will move on to citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to speak during citizens' comments, please come forward at this time. State your name and address for the record.
Antoine Williams from 6 Cedar Drive, Smithfield. My neighbor, Anna Zelonski, got a petition here signed by the neighbors on Cedar Drive about the flooding of the street. The problem that we are having is that the water is flooding the street in the middle, especially right there in front of 8 Cedar. Came before y'all about 2 years ago about the flooding. Lenny came down, cleaned out the drain, found out that one of the pipes had collapsed due to the roots. They replaced the pipes, but we still got a problem with that street flooding. Every time we get a big rain, it floods. At the corner of Dogwood and Cedar, no flooding. Same thing at the corner of Dogwood and Aspen, no flooding. On Aspen and Willow, it doesn't flood. But right there on Cedar, in front of their property, it still floods, and it runs about halfway down the street. And this time when it flooded almost up to her front door. And so what we asking is, can bigger pipes be put in on that street? Right now, though, along that street is a 22-inch pipe, and it's not cutting it, because on that street right now, you got 2 drains in the middle of that street. It takes the water from each end of the street, and it runs up under the street, then goes down the pipe, and right now it's not cutting it.
Mr. Weed, you said that was Cedar Drive?
Yeah, Cedar.
Okay. And is there another, I missed the intersection. I know you said Dogwood and Cedar was okay.
Yeah, Dogwood and Cedar, it used to flood, but
Right.
now they put a big, I believe it's a 6-foot pipe, 6 foot wide,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not flooding. And the corner of Dogwood and Aspen is not flooding. And then, cause those, pretty much before, all 4 places where we had drains at, they used to flood. They don't flood no more, but the problem we have is on Cedar, right there in front of her house and mine, where it floods right now.
And you live next door?
Next door,
What's your address?
6 Cedar.
Okay.
And hers is 8 Cedar, and we got a petition now signed by everybody on the street that's aware of the problem we have with the flooding on that street.
All right. All right, do you want to submit that? You have a petition, signed petition?
Yeah.
You want to just give that to the clerk?
Okay.
And Mr. Manager, can you look into that? Obviously, we can't make any commitments right now to say we can install additional piping, because we don't know anything about that, right? But certainly they can look into it. And I think they already have, but let's bring that back up and let's see what we've got going on there.
Mayor, I'd just like to add, and I did get some pictures. Of course, this is the same residence Mr. Tony Nixon lived in before he moved out. Now we have new residents there. And with the street, I mean, this has been a long, ongoing issue And, I mean, this road, it definitely, I mean, it floods out, and the big rain that we got on Sunday, I know when the residents, left and came back, you know, they pretty much couldn't even, access their own house, so, but, no, it's not gonna be a quick fix, but this is just something that, you know, it's been communicated plenty of times, so I just think, you know, in all fairness, you know, to those residents right there on Aspen Street, you know, I hope we can just come up with, you know, a great solution, because as you see some of these pictures, I mean, it's like, wow. And I know this ain't the only part of town that floods like that, but, you know, if we could just do at least our due diligence just to be able to come up with something. So I appreciate everybody.
Yes, sir, yeah, I guess Councilman Lee just forwarded me the picture, so, yep, that's quite a bit of water. So, obviously, I was not here in town, but evidently we got quite a bit of rain in a very, very short amount of time during that day. So, not saying that's, looks like, yeah, we had a bunch of rain at one time. That's what my thought process would be. Yeah. So, just, Ms. Williams, do you mind coming back up front? Sorry, because I just have one question. So, because to me, it does look like there was a lot of rain, but how, approximately, in your opinion, how much time did it take for that water? Are we talking 30 minutes? Are we talking a day? Or a couple of hours for the water to recede?
Usually it's about an hour, about 2 hours.
Okay. Okay.
2 hours you're talking about, and this been it's and like Councilman Lee says, not something that just started happening. It's been happening. That street was built in 1978, and we've been having that problem. Like I said, I talked to Lenny. Lenny came down, ran through the pipes, and before one night it stayed overnight and cleaned the pipe out because it was something that was stuck in the pipe. But we still got the problem with that street flood.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, appreciate it.
Anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' comments, please come forward. Okay. Not seeing any. We'll then move on to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. And we'll move on to business item number 1, consideration and request for approval to enter into a contract for the construction of the splash pad. Gary, I'll turn it over to you, sir, when you're ready.
All right, Mayor, Council, thank you tonight. We're bringing before you the design for the splash pad over at Smith Collins Park. The project scope to date is, back in the 1920 fiscal year, $125,000 was allocated for the construction of a splash pad to be placed over at Smith Collins Park. Myself and Bill Drexler and Councilman Lee met out there at the site several times, and the former site of the Eva Ennis Pool was chosen for the site of the new splash pad, of the couple of sites that were chosen or looked at over at Smith Collins Park. A request for qualifications were sent out and received for the design and construction of the splash pad, and a couple of months ago, Carolina Recreation and Design was selected and approved to design and build the splash pad. They have sent us the design. It's 1,296 square feet. It's a 36 by 36 pad. Has 7 in-ground spray features, 3 above-ground spray features, an activator sensor, which is hand activated, kind of like your tennis courts like, where it'll turn them on and off after a certain amount of time. 12 by 12 drain, water-wise controller to save as much water as possible. It has an 18 output manifold, and it has 2 removable bases for future above-ground spray features, should we decide to add those. It's also designed to be expanded easily in the future if that's what we ever decide to do. Here's a look at the spray features, and the spray features are all different in the way, in the pattern of water that they spray out of the concrete and out of the above-ground features. These are conceptual drawings for the splash pad. So tonight, we're asking that the council agree to go into a contract with Carolina Recreation Design to complete the design and build the splash pad at Smith Collins Park for the amount of $119,600, which was the budget number was $125,000, so we're well in the budget. That'll give us monies for benches and fencing and that kind of things for the splash pad itself. Now, the future budget ramifications, it'll burn about a little less than 4 million gallons of water a year at the bulk rate of 235. That would be about $9,000 a year for water. It's a flow-through system.
Any questions for Gary at this time? Will we have some shade structures out there?
Sorry?
Will we have some shade structures out there, I hope?
Well, we're hoping to put some shade out there. It'll be some small cantilever shade. We're looking at some small.
You're older adult, you care some children.
Yeah,
You don't-
looking at some
Thank you.
small individual shade structures to go over the benches.
Is that what the 5,400 will be? Is that what the excess on the?
Well, we'll use it for that, yeah, use it for that and some benches and that kind of thing.
Right.
You know,
So
some
the 119
We'll put a fencing across the front too to keep running straight across the street.
The 119 is strictly for the,
That's strictly for the construction of the splash pad.
and the remainder will be
Right.
used for amenities.
Amenities.
Yeah.
And that kind of
Okay, thank you.
What kind of warranties do they have?
Sorry.
What kind of warranty do you have? How many years?
Warranty.
Warranty, I'm sorry.
Warranty.
Warranty.
It's in, I didn't even look at the parts, but I know there was the labor and part warranty for a year.
Gary, are you familiar with the splash pad in Atlantic Beach?
I saw it while it was under construction, but I haven't seen while it was operating. I was looking at the new one in Hickory, and I know they've got this company right here is actually building one in Irwin right now as well.
Okay. If it has problems, do we have anybody in-house to work on it, or we have to call them, or what?
It depending on what the issue was, if it's with the controllers or that kind of thing, we'd probably have to call them. If it's with the plumbing, we can.
But the pad itself,
Yeah.
you said that's.
And basically, it's a glorified irrigation system, the way it's set up and operates.
How durable is the pad?
It's concrete.
Oh, it's concrete,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
the pad's
Okay,
concrete.
good deal. Okay, thank you.
All the water will be recirculated, won't be no
No,
runoff
it's
or
not
anything.
recirculated, it's a flow through.
It's what now?
A flow through means it comes out, enters into the drain, and goes out the storm drain. It's a flow through, so because a recirculating system's $75,000 to $100,000 more just for the recirculation. And then you have the chemical cost and the pump cost and that kind of thing. Most everybody's putting flow through systems. I don't know if anybody does put in a recirculating system.
No questions? Not? Pleasure of the council.
Make a motion, we approve the the plat for the splash park.
Second.
Second to approve construction of splash park. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. When do you think they'll be able to start?
I'll get in contact with him tomorrow and get the contract work. It's about 60 days for design, 60 to 90, 60 to 90 for construction. So start pretty quickly, so.
All right, good. Thanks, sir. Okay, our next item under business item is the one that was removed from the consent agenda. It's the bid award and request for approval to enter into an agreement for meter reading services. Ted?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your time this evening. We're just talking about the meter reading contract. As you know, we've had the same company for a while, so it was time to rebid it, which we did. We sent out the rebid on June 11th for a 3-week open bid policy. Also sent it directly to the 3 companies I know that actually perform that service. And we did receive bids on July the 2nd. So we received 5 responses. 2 companies submitted a no bid, and then 3 companies actually submitted pricing. The apparent low bidder, we did require some additional communication because they were so far out of range with the rest. In other words, they were rock bottom pricing, so we believe that they might have missed something in the description. And here you see the bid tab that we provided for you and what they were. Please understand that the Alexander's Contract Services, Inc. was the apparent low bidder. But we called them to make sure that they understood the bid and what it was, and we required further clarification. And upon the conversation, they did presume they would only have 1 meter reader in this town. The current company uses 3, and we're reducing to 2 later this year. We don't believe 1, based on our staff and our meter technicians and everyone around, 1 can do the job. We just don't believe that's possible. And through further conversation with them on the phone, they agreed that they would probably use 2. And if you use 2, you essentially double that price to $156. But their official bid was still $78, which is why I couldn't change it. So $156 is the number for both. So the question was, obviously, the 3 at the bottom were not recommended. Why would we recommend Grid One Solutions? They essentially have the same bid, monetarily speaking. The difference over the course of 1 year is about $2,100. We recommend Grid One because they're familiar with the town and the system. Bringing in a new company, this company's based in Utah. We would have to have a learning curve on where the streets were and where the routes were. The new company also would have liked to install a cloud-based system for their purposes, and integrating that into our billing system and with the next grid read would be problematic. And then, of course, as I said, they're based out of Utah. They don't have any local presence. They were going to hire people out of their Norfolk, Virginia office to come down, generally 1 guy. And this is the case where maybe the lowest bid wasn't the best bid, and since they're effectively the same monetary bid, we went with the other one, which was Grid One. So that's why it might look a little odd, but that's certainly the reason why we chose them. So if you have any, what I'm asking for is for you guys to approve Grid One as the vendor and authorize the county manager to enter in the contract when necessary to go ahead and execute that. And if you have any questions or comments or want to discuss this, I'm open to it, obviously.
Is this for a year or is this?
This is for one, well, this will end July 31 next year, in which case we can make a determination. Well, it was written in the contract, we would determine in May whether the level of service was satisfactory, and we can renew up to 3 years, but not past that.
Do we do it half a year, 6 months?
Well, I could change the contract any length of time you gentlemen would want me to.
Because you're saying in a few months you're having less to read, is that correct?
Right, well, yeah, remember the bid is based on reads, number of reads. So as that drops, the overall price will as well. It's not a lump sum.
It doesn't matter 6 months or a year then?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Ted? Not. Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve the bid.
Grid One Solutions.
Grid One Solutions.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the bid. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to council members' comments. Any comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I got a few.
Sir.
Just definitely going through this pandemic, I just want to send out some thank yous. Everybody has been kind of helpful, especially over at the Sarah Yard Community Center, as we're still feeding throughout the summertime. You know, Chief Powell has been very instrumental in bringing extra snacks and drinks and therefore over there. A few officers have actually stopped by and kind of helped serve, so I definitely want to thank them. Definitely like to thank Chief Powell and also Officer Blanton. Of course, in the times that we are in now, you know, everybody's having these drive-through birthday parades and stuff, and the police and definitely the fire, you know, as busy as they are, they have definitely been coming through and been a part of that. So a couple of the families definitely wanted me to tell both chiefs, thank you. Tiffany and Kristen from Parks and Rec coming over pretty much every day whenever they can to open up the center. So definitely like to thank them. We have a Choice Light Academy, which is a private school in Wake County. They've been coming down, especially on some of the off days that the school system hasn't been feeding. So definitely like to thank them coming away from another county to fill in the void. And also C3 Church, who's been coming over. Actually, they come over the first Saturday of the month, and they definitely practicing their social distancing, but just bringing some of their members, and also just interacting with the kids, and also the community over in East Smithfield. Actually, this Saturday was a great time, hot as it was. You know, they had a little water balloon fight, and I guess I was the target, but it was well worth it. Just going out there being a part of that. So, you know, just a lot of thank yous, especially, you know, in all what's going on now. Just a few other things, you know, I just want to kind of hit on, you know, since, you know, everything that's been going on, I think, Mayor, for the resolution that we have, some of the things that we are looking at in the resolution, you know, we are doing. I've been part of a whole lot of conversations. I want to thank Sarah Ellis and one of my former colleagues, Amy Plant-Purdue, on some of the conversations that we had. I've also been meeting with the chamber. I didn't really know it was more the Triangle East now, so they expanded. But just you know, some of the uneasy conversations that definitely need to be had in this time. As I kind of looked at the resolution and saw some of the departments that was represented, you know, it's still systematically, you know, there are some things going on right here in Smithfield. You know, it's not a knock on Stephen, but, you know, and even just looking at the report on some of the code violations or whatever, just based on who they are or what they did. And then some of the constituents that what I hear, it's like, you know, they may not be getting a second chance or another week. You know, they're not planting trees. So just, you know, systematically, the code enforcement, I mean, that's, if we're gonna enforce, we're gonna enforce. If we're gonna give people extra weeks, let's give everybody extra weeks. If we're gonna work with people, let's work with all people. It's funny that I see Mr. Sonny Howard out here today, and I kind of brought this up in our meeting the other night that we had. I go back to one of the first protests that we had here. I was standing there with the mayor and also Chief Powell as we approached, you know, some of the young men that were out there, and you know, young men grew up right here in Smithfield. A lot of them were athletes. You know, they played basketball. And, you know, now, you know, they're here. Some of them have their issues or whatever. But as we went through the Parks and Rec fee schedule, I noticed that we have 3 sports listed up there. We have volleyball, we have softball, and we have basketball. Don't really offer any adult volleyball that I know of. We definitely do have church softball, pretty much the ages 18 and up. And we haven't had competitive basketball since about 2001, and that's when I was playing, way back whenever I finished up college. And, you know, just coming from the director, you know, well, you know, basketball kind of got out of hand, and you know, that's about 19, 20 years ago. And when I was just looking at them kids the other day, you know, that's possibly something, you know, they could be involved in. Just giving them something to do, opportunity at Parks and Rec. Because, you know, we do it for softball. We got 3 and 4 fields. Now, more so than back in 2001, we got a few more courts. We got 2 more courts added at the track. Back then, it was played at the old Smithfield Elementary and in the middle school. So, you know, just giving everybody an opportunity at some Parks and Rec. I mean, here again, it's up there, but we're not offering that at all. And then the last part, yesterday I had a chance to go up and present with the county commissioners, you know, and a whole lot because Wake County is doing it. You know, we talked about Juneteenth. A lot of people don't even know what the Juneteenth celebration is, and it's just, you know, some been getting great feedback from a diverse number of people, and then also, you know, been getting some, you know, well, this is what's going to separate, or, you know, separate. Here in Smithfield, we do things, have things that unite us. The 4th of July. If you know the history of the 4th of July, you know, it's not for black people. They weren't free then. But we shoot off fireworks, we do whatever. We do National Night Out. Well, if you just read the news, you know, a lot of people thinking, you know, a lot of cops are under, you know, scrutiny or whatever. But we have National Night Out. Also, we have Ham and Yam. We have different events right here in Smithfield. And, you know, I would almost plans, you know, once that we could, we have some Juneteenth events. And then people will learn. A lot of times, if you learn and understand the history, and then you'll see why people feel the way that they feel. And, you know, just yesterday, just presenting to the county commissioners, yeah, this is an election year, and some people, you know, yeah, they want to do stuff, but they worry about the backlash. I'm here to just say, you know, right is right, wrong is wrong. You know, that's not gonna solve anything. You know, here again, I don't hear any more talk about what we're gonna do, painting on the street. That's not gonna solve anything. It's really what's in your heart. It ain't all about Democrat, it ain't about Republican. You know, but everybody is so church going. You know, we all guys churches, so I mean, at some point we can throw all that, just throw it away, and just dig down and within yourself, and just determine, have you did right or have you done wrong, and by who? That's all I have to say. And the last thing I will say, thanks to the mayor, Mike Scott, Tim, even Lawrence that showed up to the 100 Men in Suits. Had a very diverse group of young men, boys, and it was definitely a peaceful protest, and I thank definitely everybody for coming out today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lee. Anyone else?
I just want to kind of reiterate what Marlon said. My youngest son, one of his best friends, nearly died in December. It was actually the day after Christmas. And the Johnson County EMS and the Smithfield Fire Department did come to his house. I think it was 2 weeks ago. They had like a rolling parade for him on his birthday. And I think some of the firefighters actually went in and talked to him, who got there on the scene pretty early, and also the Johnson County EMS. So big thanks to Chief Blanton for that. And I don't know if any police officers were involved. They may have been, but just to reiterate what Marlon said, that meant a lot to that family. Meant a lot to that young man. meant a lot to me, because I've done a lot for him, and our families have done a lot for each other, but he's had a really tough time the last year. And he was just diagnosed with diabetes, so they got another challenge ahead of them with that. But again, big thanks there. Excited to hear about a splash pad coming. I know we've talked about that for several years. I'm glad that's finally come to fruition for our towns. We can offer that service to our citizens. And last but not least, I've got to wish an 80th happy birthday to one of my friends. Happy birthday, Miss Johnson. Hope you have a happy 80th.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. So I have just a couple of things wanted to mention. As Councilman Lee mentioned, the 100 Men in Suits gathering, that was a great event. Thanks for Councilman Lee for putting that on. It was hot, but it was definitely a good, peaceful event, and brought some good attention to a well-needed event there. So also to our police department, I just want to publicly say that with everything going on, not only in Smithfield but around this nation, I just want to say that myself as the mayor, and I think I can speak for everyone on this council, that we are 110% behind our officers. I know they're going through a lot right now, as well as a lot of people are around this country, right? But a few officers throughout the country doesn't mean that every single police officer is bad. And we have a great force, and I just want them to know that we are behind them. And I think back to events, or an event that we had just a few weeks ago when we had basically some random shooting going on. And when the manager called me to inform me about it, thankful that he wasn't calling to inform me that one of our police officers had been shot, or God forbid, killed. They're out there, they're on the line of duty, and they're faced with a threat every single time they walk out the door of their home to go to work. So just want them to know that we are behind them, and we as a council are doing all that we can do to support our police department. And I just want to publicly say thank you to those men and women that come to work every day to protect us. Also, Councilman Lee mentioned, we did have our first community conversations meeting June the 30th at Sarah Yard Museum. And Sarah, I want to thank you for helping to get that organized. It's a small group of some individuals right now, but we're starting to ask some of the tough questions and just trying to get some things out there and start kicking around some ideas and so forth with hopes that we can expand that once we kind of have a game plan and expand it to a larger group and kind of see some things blossom within the town as it relates to our racial interactions and diversity and inclusion and so forth throughout the entire town. So more to come on that. Then about a week or so ago, I was headed home and saw one of police and everything on 301 near Holt Lake Barbecue, and one of our trash trucks had been involved in a rear-end collision, and it just made me start to think. I see those men and women riding on these trash trucks, and sometimes they're in our neighborhoods and they're riding on the back of the trucks, having to jump off and get the containers and the rain and sleet and the snow. And thank goodness no one was on the back of that truck at that time, or we probably would have had a very, very serious incident on our hands. But to the public out there, please pay attention when you're driving. This was on a straightaway road, no curves, bright sunny day, you know, traffic in that area sometimes can be heavy and so forth. But I just ask that, you know, that we be mindful when we're driving. I'm not saying that the individual is texting or on their phone with driving, but I will say that we should not be doing that, and just simply pay attention, because it could have had a very different outcome. And then also, Lawrence, come to the front, sir. I know you don't usually like the spotlight. If I could turn the lights off and shine a spotlight on you, sir. I think Lenny's on vacation today, but I did just want to share that a voicemail that I received last week is from a lady who lives on Sussex Drive, and she just called just to say that how impressed she was and how thankful she was to our Public Works Department. And she just thought that you guys needed a word of good cheer. And I quote, I wish I could play the voicemail for you. In fact, you can come to my office and I'll play it for you. But she said that the individuals are super wonderful, kind, and considerate, and that she is ever grateful for all that they do to assist with picking up her trash and all they do to help take care of her. Sir, that makes me very proud to be the mayor of this town. We have got a fine staff, and when I come in and get messages like this instead of someone complaining and so forth, which is the majority of the calls I get usually, it just makes me proud and just gives me the energy to continue doing what I'm doing and what this council's doing. And it makes our job so much easier when we get stuff like that. So, sir, if you will, please take that back to your department, share that with them in one of your huddle meetings. And on behalf of the council, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you, sir, for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate a little bit about what was said here. I did have the honor and the pleasure to participate in the 100-minute suits walk a little over a week ago. Couldn't have been more proud to be part of Smithfield at that point and part of the leadership from Councilman Lee to put that together in the class that it was put together, and the follow-through that went along with it. So again, for a small community, we are leading the way in a lot of aspects, and it's done so by many of the council members and staff as well. But in this case, Councilman Lee was in the spotlight, and my hat's off to him for putting on a very great event for Smithfield and for North Carolina in general. A couple more things. I'm going to ask Gary Johnson to step up. I'm going to ask him to explain what our elephant hunt is, as well as the addition of the talking tree that we have down at the Greenway.
The elephant hunt is kind of like the bear hunt. Somebody told me a joke a while back that why do you never see elephants hiding in trees? And it's because they're so good at it. And so we decided that we would hide elephants along the Greenway, and there's 25 elephants between the Bob Wallace Park to the community park, hiding in the trees for people to have an opportunity to search for and look for. So to give them some extra incentive to get out and walk and to bring their kids and that kind of thing. And also we have Okie, the old oak tree down between the boat ramp and the Boy Scout hut. A long time ago that it was a talking tree, and we have brought Okie back to life. And that pedestal was put in yesterday, and it's talking, and it has 2 stories. It's part of the old script that was used 30 or 40 years ago, and it was updated by the Appearance Commission and Todd Johnson and those. And so that's back up and in operation as of yesterday. So those are those 2 things.
Anything else, Mr. Manager? Awesome. Just one other thing to point out. I think most of you saw the update and so forth. Tim, I think we received a couple awards for our social media do you mind coming, I hate to put you on the spot, but just kind of explain what those were while you're coming forward? That was one of the initiatives of the council, was to help get the good and positive things out about the town of Smithfield. And the council made a commitment to hire a communications and social media specialist. And so recently we did receive a couple of awards. And Tim, do you mind just kind of giving a little update?
The awards came from the North Carolina City and County Communicators. It's NC3C. And they annually, at the annual convention, which of course did not get to have this year, Smithfield was awarded 2 awards, the first place and a second place. The one that Brian Eves, our marketing and communications specialist, who is not here tonight, but his wit and personality really come out in his 60 seconds on Smithfield in 60, and it's really unique, and it really garnered that well-deserved award. It's really neat, not only you get that recognition from the peers, of course the public loves it, but when you're awarded that from the peers, not only here in North Carolina, but nationally, because they are judged by a panel outside of here, it's really nice and rewarding. So thank you very much for that, and I'll extend it on to Brian as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? Not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Stand adjourned. Thank you.